Hello and welcome to Fantasy Football Weekly, episode 2, with myself, Tomo, and how are we doing, Fletchy?
Yeah, we're doing good, son. 7 days have gone very, very quickly. A lot of time spent on fantasy, FPL.
Any breaking news?
Oh, there's some massive news. Forget about, possibly Neymar to PSG. Sanchez, well, God knows where he's going. But we've got Phil Bardsley gone to Burnley.
He's an FPL must, isn't he?
Well, he's certainly underpriced. I know you want to discuss a bit about that now, but he's certainly an option. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's right. So first things first, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you do now. Press the red button below. It'd be great to have you following us all season. We're going to be talking all things FPL. If you don't know what FPL means, then this channel is not for you. We're going to be discussing everything to do with FPL. So this week, the biggest topic that we're going to go into, and a very, very important one, is underpriced players. Now, underpriced players, initially, if you can get a crop of underpriced players in your squads, it can pay dividends in the early stages of the season. Last year, the guy that won, he finished on something like 108 million in terms of overall team value. We know we're all starting at 100. So normally there's a graph that goes up, whereas if your team value is going up, normally you're doing well because it means you've got informed players, they're getting a lot of transfers in. And basically we're just going to try and sniff out a few underpriced gems today, and pretty much the prime example. And as soon as I heard the news that Mr. Walker was vacating the right back spot at Spurs and heading up to Manchester, the immediate thought of my mind was, right, that's Kieran Trippier nailed into my dream team then. And as all other FPL addicts would have had exactly the same thought at the same moment when they heard the news. So I think what we're going to do tonight is go into that in a little bit more detail, and pretty much, let's see if we can find some gems between us and help everybody out. So over to you, Fletchy. Where do you fancy starting us off?
Well, let's start with, you've already mentioned him. Let's start with Mr. Kieran Trippier. I think at 5.5, he's looking like an absolute steal, isn't he? Based on his performance last season. I think he was 6 assists in like 12 games or something silly like that. That's probably why Walker was annoyed being sort of rotated, and obviously fell out with Pochettino. So it really has opened up the door for Kieran, based on his Burnley form as well. Obviously going back a few years, he was in my side for a while, and those home games, even for Burnley, he was producing big points. So I think
he gets forward so well as well, doesn't he?
Yeah. I think at 5.5, he's severely underpriced. What I would say about that price compared to obviously the other Spurs defenders, if you're looking at Vertonghen, Alderweireld at 6, well, you just wouldn't touch him now, would you?
No. What if they was pricing it now, knowing that Walker was a Man City player? What do you think they'd be pricing Trippier at?
Well, I'd be pricing him at 6.5.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, I think he's the second person on my team sheet. I think Trippier.
Yeah, obviously, unfortunately, everybody that is into it as we are, or as addicted as we are, will sniff Trippier out immediately, and they'll be in their sides. But the masses, the people that maybe don't play it up to our level, won't have him, and they'll be jumping on him as a bandwagon, maybe game week 2, 3, 4, and his price is just going to skyrocket.
Yeah. Obviously, the first game, Newcastle away, he's going to be bombing down that right wing
against Drummond.
Exactly. Can you see Newcastle scoring? I can't myself. So
no, and Spurs kept the most clean sheets last year. So not only does he get forward well, there's a huge, opportunity to get defensive points throughout the year as well.
Well, yeah. If you're looking to gain value early in the season, if Trippier hits a ground running, he could be 5.7, 5.8 by game week 6 or something like that. He could be really flying.
Another one at 5.5 that has sprung to mind is the old Lindelof, this Man United centre half. What's your thoughts?
I saw the first friendly. I know we're going to go into friendlies a little bit later, but defensively looked a little bit shaky. I think the first game they played free at the back, but he had a good chance from a corner, I believe, as well. So I think there's going to be attacking returns for him. I think at 5.5 compared to the other United defenders' prices, I think he's heavily underpriced as well. Obviously,
he has to be starting, doesn't he? He has to be.
Well, obviously, maybe that's why they've priced him up at 5.5 because obviously Smalling's still there, Jones is still there, Rojo's still there. So there's question marks, but at 5.5, he's currently in my draft right now, and he's definitely an option.
Yeah, I think like Mourinho suggested about potentially playing 3 at the back as well, and I think that bringing him in basically just cements his opportunities to play even more if he's going to look to implement that system at times, which he may well do. I'd be inclined to agree with you. I think at 5.5 compared to the other United backline, I think the only other one that's I've written down as one to watch, because I know he's missing the start of the season, but at some point, if Luke Shaw can nail down that left back spot or wing back spot at 5 mil, I could see him in a lot of sides at some point in the season, but obviously not from the start. Yeah,
definitely one for the future weeks. Obviously, this history with Jose last season, he wasn't too happy with him at the start of last season, but he started to come back into it. Could be a very worthy option at 5. Definitely one to monitor.
Now, obviously, a defence that was robust last year. We've mentioned Spurs, but basically the Chelsea title was won by a string of. It was a block of 5-6 clean sheets on the trot, and he conceded 1 goal, and then another 4 or 5 games or whatever. It was a long period of basically not conceding. What's the budget route into the Chelsea backline?
Obviously, I've heard a lot of talk about Luiz at 6. I wouldn't say he's underpriced. I'd say it's a weird one that he's 6 compared to a Cahill, who's obviously 6'5". But I was looking last night, and to be honest, I was shocked that Cahill actually outscored Alonso last season, which was a surprise to me. It was only by 1 point, but my immediate reaction when I was looking, I was trying to fit Alonso into my side, was Cahill at 6'5". I know he went on a hell of a run of being at the right place at the right time with regards to corners, etc. But he actually beat Alonso last season. So Cahill's not being talked about at all. And I don't know about you, but I tried to fit Alonso in a few teams I've drafted, and I'll tell you what, it's very tough at 7 mil.
It is, of course. Well, as soon as I saw the price, I thought he's not in my team. Immediately I thought, well, that's him not in my team. And then he bangs a goal in the pre-season, and you think,
Yeah, you're straight back on the website trying to fit the boy in. But I know you don't take friendlies too seriously. I think I probably look to friendlies a little bit more than you. You've got more of a sensible head on you. But when Alonso's popping up against Bayern, you've got to take note. He's more or less a 7 mil midfielder at the moment. He's so far forward.
He is.
But he's certainly not underpriced at 7 mil, that's for sure. He doesn't fit that category. But Luiz Luiz at 6, he wouldn't be anywhere near my side, but it's a very reasonable price, and you got to think he's going to get more goals and assists than last season. I think he only scored once. Good free kick at Anfield, so you got to think he's got more points in his locker. So it could look like a decent price at 6.
That's right. Have you got any defenders that have sprung to your mind? Such as the ones we mentioned that you thought, there's scope there for them to gain value early?
Well, apart from Phil Bardsley, I've looked at this Arsenal backline. I don't know how much if you've got any Arsenal players in yours defensively, because I think Mustafi, he didn't really impress me in an Arsenal shirt last season, but I think he's going to be nailed on, especially if they play this 3 at the back still. And he's a goal threat. Even in those bigger games, he was popping up with headers. I think his stats last season, he was like 4th with regards to defender chances or something. 4th or 5th.
That's good knowledge. And he's 5'5" as well, right? Along with Monreal at the same price.
Yeah, obviously they've got this new left back, left wing back, so that puts me off Monreal slightly. Obviously Monreal could play the left-hand side of the three, possibly. But I think Mustafi at 5'5", I think could be going on the radar. So he's definitely in my thoughts.
Yeah, you can't really touch Bellerin, can you, at 6 mil, because there's the question mark of he was drop money for a period, and he's also being linked to Barca. You know, Chamberlain was playing a lot in that wing back position. I think you're right. I think Monreal. I probably would go the Monreal route personally. I think because if he can get the nod at wing back, I think there is a bit more of an opportunity for him to get forward in that role.
Still got Gibbs floating around though as well.
Yeah, there's not a lot, but it's a flick of a coin. Yeah. I don't think there's not much in it. And you know, they don't concede too many goals generally. You know, I think they were either second or third for goals conceded in terms of like the least goals conceded last season. I'll tell you the team I want to throw in the mix just based on their fixtures. Really,
It's not West Ham, is it? Because we're after last week. We're
banning all West Ham.
We're banning West Ham to at least Hernandez scores a brace or something. So there's no.
If anyone didn't see last week, we went on for about 10 minutes droning on about Antonio and Lanzini, etc., etc. We should have just called it the West Ham video cast.
I did predict the Hernandez price just to. Obviously, I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but...
Well, listen, you said 7, I said 7.5. And I thought afterwards, now we've undercooked this. He's going to be 8.85. And he's come out at 7.
Yeah.
Can't believe it.
Yeah. It's a very worthy price, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think he'll be in a lot of sides. But as we said, we're not talking West Ham. So underpriced, as I just mentioned, looking at the fixtures, Southampton's opening fixtures just look so nice. You know, this Cedric 5 mil playing potentially right back, wing back.
Yeah, Cedric was one of the first players in my team, but there's been a little bit of information come out that obviously he's not played a friendly yet. And this is because he's been given extended time because he played in the Confederations Cup. So
is he just fatigued and having a bit more of a break? Is that what you've heard?
He's having more of a break. Obviously, he's not been involved in any friendlies yet. I'm not sure exactly when he's due back, but when I heard that news, he went out of my draft now until I'm not because with those opening fixtures, you want him involved from day one, don't you?
Yeah, and in that case, would you shift it across and go for a Yoshida or a Stevens in light of the fact Van Dijk's on his way, by all accounts?
There's certainly options. I haven't done that myself, but I've currently got a Southampton midfielder. But we'll go on to that in the future.
There's no excitement, is there, with starting with Stevens and Yoshida at 5 mil. I think there's a bit of an excitement starting with Cedric just because you can see them, you know, the odd assist. I think that's why Cedric's more appealing, obviously.
Yeah, or you could go the Forster route. I think we're going to discuss keepers shortly, but with those fixtures, you certainly want some sort of Southampton coverage, wouldn't you?
Well, let's go on to keepers if you want, because I think that's a decent point. Forster at 5 mil. I know there's cheaper keepers, but Forster at 5 mil with those opening fixtures, very, very worthy. But listen, what underpriced ones spring to mind?
I think the one that screams out at me is Ben Foster. I know West Brom wasn't as solid as you'd expect Tony Pulis' side to be. I think they only got 6 clean sheets last season, but I think Tony will be looking to improve on that. There's rumours of them possibly going for a Smalling, which would be a very good signing, or a Ben Gibson, which I also believe would be a very, very good signing. So I think Forster, he was the first keeper I looked at 4-5. West Brom's opening 6 fixtures are lovely. And I've got a fantastic rotation with Ben Foster as well. And that guy is Fabianski. They rotate all season. With regards to Fabianski and Swansea, if you look at the way Clement come in, a lot of 1-0s at home. I see they played a friendly yesterday in America, which was 0-0. Clement plays defensive, doesn't he? Looks for counter.
Fabianski also at 4-5. You're looking at a combo deal of 9 mil, which on its face value, I agree, is pretty good. When I first saw Foster, my initial reaction was also he's been underpriced, and he was the first keeper that I put in my initial draft. Yeah. But I think you're right. They kept 6 clean sheets last year, and I looked on the keeper standards just now. He scored the 10th highest points out of all of the goalkeepers last season.
Yeah.
This fodder that comes up in the way of Huddersfield, Brighton, and got to say Newcastle as well. You know, they're going to be under the cosh, these teams. He improved it last year. These save points were basically superseding the clean sheets anyway, you know?
Yeah.
And I actually think that my gut reaction is to look down one of them routes and try and sniff out the next Heaton. The name I'll throw in the hat is the Newcastle man who has played the most minutes in goal pre-season is Elliott at 4 mil.
Yeah, I think at 4 mil, but obviously you're a Newcastle fan yourself. I know you've tried to keep that secret.
He's going to get bombed behind. I think we lost you for a second there, but swiftly moving on. The other one that come in at 4.5 recently, we're back on West Ham, Fletchy, is the old Joe Hart 4.5. Will he be anywhere near your side?
No, he won't be. I think people are getting carried away by that price, to be honest. You know, he's not in good form. West Ham don't keep clean sheets. It's like if a Courtois or De Gea signed for West Ham, they'd be 4.5 as well. He's not gonna. They're not gonna keep massive clean sheet to Joe Hart's in goal. He'll
be popular though, won't he? But I agree, he's not one for me either.
No. But a 4.5, yeah, he'll be in a few people's sides, and he's certainly an option. I know another keeper which has been banded around is Begovic. All my friends know that I absolutely hate Begovic. I think his Chelsea form was shocking. I also blame him.
He was all right at Stoke, wasn't he? He turns into a donkey.
Even that Chelsea disaster season, I blame him for 20% of that. His positioning's shocking. How we got 10 million for him. He wouldn't be anywhere near my side, but I think there's a few people looking at Begovic, to be fair, because it's a cheap option into that Bournemouth backline, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Who also have good fixtures early on, don't they? They got a nice start.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, one day, going back to defenders, we missed out on talking about these boys, but you know, this Everton have got atrocious fixtures to start with, so that would probably put a lot of people off this. But with Coleman missing the start of the season, I think there could be budget route in with potential Holgate, who could also play right of the three in a back three at 4-5, or maybe this Martina they picked up in that wing back role. Whoever nails down a role out of them two, I think their price could go up. Yeah.
I think it's one to watch on there because I'm reading Everton forums and on Twitter, and from what I'm reading, they all think that Holgate's going to start, above Martina, which could be the case. So I think it's probably one to watch for me. But Martina at Southampton, I was impressed by some of his performances, and Holgate done well last season. So be interesting to see who does get the nod there. That's for sure. But they're both at 4-5. You think they're going to be in your side at some point, whoever gets the starting role.
We potentially sniffed out a 4 mil keeper, but I don't know if they played yesterday or the day before, you probably know better than me, but Brighton had a friendly, and this Hunnemeyer, however you say him, 4 mil, Rossimoir, 4 mil, Rossimoir, however you say him too. Need a translator on it. Whatever his name, I feel like Paul Merson.
Liam Rossinier, you're looking for. He's certainly an option. I think they won 3-0. That guy, I'm not going to try and pronounce his name, beginning with H. He played 90. So if you're looking for a cheap budget player at 4 mil, obviously a lot of people talking about Rangel as well, but I'm not sure how many minutes he's going to play.
He ain't going to play, is he?
I think Norton at 4-5, I think it's a decent option.
Yes, you just see these Swansea boys getting peppered. I would, if I was going to go at the back line, I'd be looking at Mawson at 5 mil, just simply because he's a threat at set pieces. But other than that, I wouldn't be touching him with a barge pole, to be honest.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm very happy with this Foster Fabianski rotation. So I think that's my way of a bit Swansea and a bit of West Brom. But I've been hearing people like the old Dawson and Mawson rotation, but I know you've got to pay an extra mil for that. So
True, true.
There's certainly a lot of options, but those two clubs rotate all season basically. So it's certainly one to note down.
Yeah, so it's a good spot from you. So we're going to go on to midfielders then. And what names jumped out at you initially in terms of who's been underpriced?
Who's been underpriced? Well, I was looking at another Newcastle player, and that's Murphy at 5.5. I think from his championship form, you'll probably know more than me, obviously being a Newcastle fan. Do you think he'll start or not?
I think he'll start.
You think?
I think he'll start. I think, given the fact that there's a chance Richie might miss the start as well. He's still injured, not played a minute in pre-season. Don't know how fit he's going to be come the start. I think they're going to be looking for, a little bit of guile and a little bit of pace, and he certainly offers that. I know what you mean. He'd be one to wait though. I wouldn't start with him. I think he could. I think he could finish a higher value than 5.5. Don't get me wrong, but I don't see it taking off quick enough for me to start with him.
No, that's fair enough. Another player who's currently in my side is Tadic. I know he's playing in the hole now, and with those Southampton fixtures, 6.5. Well, he's been a lot more in previous years, hasn't he? I know he's not had the greatest of seasons, but he can go on a run. He's took a few penalties in the past as well. He's on a few set pieces as well. If Ward-Prowse isn't around, I think Tadic at 6.5. I know there's probably a few.
I owned him towards the end of last year, and he was so frustrating to own. He's on all set pieces. He often seems to assist the assist, and he's there or thereabouts around the action, but his finishing's not great, and he annoys you more than anything. But I do agree his potential's there, and if he does hit the ground running with their fixtures again, as we've mentioned, I agree. I think you've sniffed out a good one potentially.
Yeah. I think another guy that we mentioned last week is Willian.
Of course.
We played a friendly against Arsenal at the weekend, obviously won 3-0, which is nice. Obviously a lot of rotation subs, but he's on the score sheet again. Doesn't sound like Hazard's going to start the season, so you've got to think he's nailed on for a little 1 to 4 week punt. Willian could be at 7 mil, Burnley at home first game.
Yes, and then a lot of people will be looking at him. A lot of people, because it's a big season for him too, right? You got dropped for Pedro 9 times out of 10 towards the end of last season. He'll be looking to impress Conte, impress with the right attitude, produce the goods. And I think if he, the way his pre-season's gone, if he starts the season, he could then look to maintain that spot on the right when Hazard comes back on the left potentially.
Yeah. Have you picked out?
What about Fabregas at 7 mil in there as well?
Yeah, well, Conte's been bigging him up this week. There's been a fair few quotes saying he's could possibly play in the number 10 role. Possibly could be formation change. We've been playing 4 at the back in periods of the friendly as well. So Fabregas for home games could be very, very worthy. I'm not sure he's going to play away from home. He just doesn't have the legs, does he?
No, so, you're right.
For me personally, I'd be looking at Willian to start the season, and if Fabregas is starting the season very well, you could easily swap them over, possibly. But Fabregas at 7 mil is certainly a tempting price, isn't it?
I think a similar sort of player where you don't know if he's guaranteed to start or maybe even play 90s. He potentially he's playing quite deep as well, but has been a fantasy goldmine previously. Priced at 7 mil is Aaron Ramsey at Arsenal.
Yeah, obviously we talked about the Arsenal defence, and I'm really struggling to get some Arsenal attack in my side. Lacazette, I'm still not sure about at 10.5. I think it's a watch for me. I think Ramsey at 7. I think he was in my side last season, and I went on a good run with him, and then he got injured. He certainly gets forward well, doesn't he? And with Xhaka holding, you think he's the one who's going to be bombing on more than Xhaka. So I think he's pretty much nailed in there at 7 mil if you're looking for some Arsenal coverage.
Yeah, and he fits the bill of what we discussed at the start, doesn't he? In terms of he's going to be a serious bandwagon. If he starts well, I can't talk today. I don't know
what you've been drinking.
Need another coffee, I think. Yeah. So if he starts well, he's going to get so many transfers in at 7 mil. Yeah. He's arguably one to start with because he has got such a scope. to rise. And do you know one of the first names that I saw? I think is they drip fed some of the prices, didn't they?
Yeah.
And one of the ones they drip fed to us was Ali at 9.95.
Yeah, it's a very, very tempting price because I thought he would be 10 at least. Obviously, you know my thoughts on Kane at the moment. Ali's currently in my side. Obviously, we've got 2.5 weeks to go, so I'll be swapping and changing, and transfers happening. So, but I think at 9.5, he's looking the real deal, isn't he? Based on last season.
So for the guys that didn't watch last week, you said basically Kane's nowhere near your side at the price, basically, even though he was top scorer last year.
Yeah, he's nowhere near my side based on the Wembley and based on his start. He started the last 2 seasons really poorly. They played Roma last night, didn't score then. Not very impressed by him at the moment. He scored a dodgy.
He'll hit a brace against us. You'll be taking a -4 in game week 2 to get him in. I can see it now.
Well, I did text you last night and say, if he's going to be in your side, by the time Chelsea keep that clean sheet at Wembley in the second game, he could be looking at 12-3. You'll be transferring.
You think he's going the other way, do you?
Yeah. You'll be transferring him out at 12-3 for a Jesus. Be coming in.
We'll see. We'll
see.
I think a lot of people will be looking at an Ali or an Eriksen at 9.5, like you say.
Yeah.
That extra money will go a long way that you're saving by not having Kane. Some might even look at the double up. The only other one that I've wrote down, which is worth mentioning, because if they do get a DMC, Paul Pogba in there at 8 mil, does have a lot of shots. He does drag a lot as well. He seems to hit a lot of woodwork. If he actually, starts hitting the back of the net, his price is going to go, isn't it?
At 8 mil, it would be a watch for me. Obviously, if I'm paying 11.5 for Lukaku, I like to have people involved from different clubs, so it wouldn't be a double up for me. But at 8 mil, yeah, with those first 6 fixtures, you got to think he's going to be bombing forward more, and he's a threat from corners, isn't he? So, very viable option. But for me, it would be a sit and wait. I'm not sure he's underpriced. I think he's about right for me. 8 mil.
Yeah, the annoying thing is there's so many United fans that play the game as well. He's only got, if he scores in the opening game, there's going to be some serious bandwagon, and you might not want to get on it in the opening game week, but you're going to almost be forced to get on it early, particularly if he strings a couple of goals in the first 3 game weeks or whatever. But I agree, he's not in my side currently. I can't see him being in my side for the start. Sniffing out a couple of 4.5s there. Then there's been a lot of chat about this Rubens Loftus-Cheek at 4.5. You're a Chelsea fan. Is he going to do the biz at that price?
I think at 4.5, he's in my squad, nailed on. He played 45 minutes in a friendly. I think he played in a midfield 3, and I think the ball's going to be playing a 4-3-3. Is that what you think as well, or not? Or you think he's going to?
I would think so. Yeah, so expecting him to possibly play the 10 role. So and he must have gone there because he's been guaranteed minutes. I can't see why he would have agreed to go there unless he hadn't been. Yeah,
De Boer's he's played 3 at the back as well. So I think he's really tinkering at the moment. So I think, at 4.5, I think it's worth monitoring definitely. But at that price, he can play in a number of positions. I've also had a lot of talk about punching at 5 mil. I haven't looked in depth into Palace's squad in friendlies and how they've done, but it's definitely worth monitoring because they've got a lot of players in there. Cabaye, the guy beginning with M, who I'm not going to try and pronounce, he's on penalties.
He takes. You see the free kick he scored as well the other day.
Yeah. Zaha as well. Certainly a lot of options. Obviously, Benteke, you'd think we're going to play up top on his own. I think Loftus-Cheek at 4.5. Yeah.
He'll be in a lot of sides. People that know what they're doing, he'll be in basically everybody's side, won't he? So that one's pretty much a given. You've got to have at least 1 4.5 you'd expect. A lot of people will be looking to possibly even upgrade him to a 4th or a 3rd mid and stick another 4.5 or maybe even 2 4.5s alongside him.
Would you prefer a Loftus-Cheek over a Carroll at 4.5?
I've currently got them both in my side.
Have you really?
I don't think there's a lot between them two, because I think Carroll, he's playing in there, particularly if Siggy's on his way. Tom Carroll stepping up with set pieces or getting a share of set pieces, you'd imagine. I think he's another one. I think he's going to be in so many sides with people that know what they're doing. At 4.5, arguably, he's a fourth mid. And then that's what begs the question. Do you bring another 4.5 in and have them as place 3 and place 4 of your midfield? I mean, you then got a lot of money to go around elsewhere. It's an interesting one. I think Tom Carroll is another one where the price could skyrocket if he starts well. I don't think he's never going to hit your 10 goals and 10 assists, is he? I don't think you're ever going to get that out of him. But at the price, you can't argue.
Yeah, just looking at the midfielders, I don't think there's that many people that I'd say are underpriced. Would you?
No, it's not as glaringly obvious as the defenders, I don't think. Another one, obviously, Newcastle fan, the other one to watch, I think, is Aaron's at 4.5, because he's a streaky player and he is offensive. We know he's going to get assists. He'll get the odd goal as well if he can stay fit and if he stands up to the robustness of the Prem. If he starts well and Benitez will pick on form, could be an opportunity for him as well with Richie not starting this season. At 4.5, he wouldn't be in the team to start, but he'd be one to monitor. Yeah.
Also, another one who I think people have had through the years. Obviously, there's so many attacking options at Liverpool, but Henderson at 5.5.
Yeah,
I think it's a very, very nice price. Obviously, he's going to play fairly deep, but he does pop up with the odd 30-yarder, doesn't he? He does pop up with the odd assist. He will get the odd bonus point. I think at 5.5, he's a pretty good price, to be fair.
Yeah, he'll get some set pieces as well. I know Coutinho will get the majority of the ones close to the box, but he'll get some deeper free kicks and probably take some corners, I'd imagine, at times. Yeah, I hadn't thought of Henderson. That's a pretty good one. I never think you're going to get enough transfers in on Henderson for his price to take off. But he could be a cheap route into their midfield, which is it's looking expensive everywhere else, isn't it? In the attacking roles.
He's captain. He's playing every week. He's playing 90s at 5.5.
Is he in your side at the moment then?
No, he's not.
So talk him up to get everyone else on him, and then move on to better options.
No, there's too many top attacking options in this Fletcher's winner side for Henderson to apart from Loftus-Cheek, but he's just a enabler. So Henderson, but who knows? We've got a lot of tweaking to do in the next 3 weeks. You're going to get influenced by friendlies and stuff like that. If Henderson pops up with a little 30-yarder on Sky Sports News tomorrow, then he'd probably be straight back in the side. So we'll have to wait and see on that.
Right, strikers then. Who's underpriced?
I think possibly Hernandez at 7 mil. I know I called the price, but I do think, like I said, he's going to play on the last line of the defender.
He'll get goals, won't he?
I said we weren't going to talk about West Ham. I think the way we're promoting him, we should be in the director's box for the first home game. The way things are going, we should be.
It's a decent shout.
It should be a personal invite from David Gold, I think, the way things are going. But yeah, I do think Hernandez at 7 mil. He's going to. When the price came out this morning, I read Twitter and people were going crazy for it because prediction-wise, people were coming out 8.5. But like you said, I think it was a really good. When I said 7 mil, and then you try and compare him to a Defoe, it sounds about right, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, it does. Because I think I would, just for Defoe's history in the Prem, he scored something like 16 goals in a terrible Sunderland side last year, didn't he? He's going to get a lot of chances in that Bournemouth side, and I think he's guaranteed to get pens. Obviously, Noble, you'd expect to continue taking pens. I'd be more inclined probably to go Defoe, but I don't think Defoe's underpriced. I think he's priced correctly. So yeah, if you're looking for an underpriced option, I think Hernandez does probably just fit the bill.
There's another player that's been talked about, is this new Huddersfield striker. He's come from the French league. I think he's done really well in the French league, and they're expecting him to start up top for Huddersfield. I think his name is Mornay.
Has his price come out yet?
Yeah, 6 mil.
Yeah, you're on the ball with that one, mate. Good spot.
So he could be certainly one to watch. I think he might have been 18 goals in 35 games or something last season. There's been a lot of chat about him. But there's another player who I talked to you about last night, who's also 6 mil, and that's James Rodriguez. I think with those baggies...
You convinced me last night. I weren't interested. Then when you drew my attention to their West Brom fixtures at the start, he's very tempting at 6 mil.
Yeah, I did mention him. You basically replied with slating him, and then I sent you one back with with the reasons why. And you've turned your opinion on him. But
big
like
season
I say,
for him.
Yeah, it's a really big season, but obviously he had a terrible injury. But before that, he scores goals, doesn't he? He scores from
yeah.
I think at 6 mil, obviously people look at the fixtures because West Brom first 6. I think it's a fantastic option.
I think in that bracket as well, the Southampton boys, I know we spoke to death about their fixtures, but they do start lovely on paper. If Austin or Gabby Adidi can be the front runner for that forward line, particularly Austin at 6'5", we know he gets goals. And if he does start with them fixtures, hits a few goals early, his price could rise also.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think with strikers, there's not that... Because I think most people will be looking for that, you know what I mean, powerful strike force. You know, your Lukaku's, your Jesus, and maybe Lacazette. I think if you're going to go with a cheap person, it is a gamble because it doesn't look very good on paper. Like when I sent you my strike force, you looked at Rodriguez and thought, it's not great. But when you when you actually delve deeper, I love my differential buzzes. So. Not saying I'm going to put in a Huddersfield striker, but you know, if he was to hit a goal at Palace away and no one else has got him, that's why I play the game. I love those individual buzzes.
I think you're right. I think with the abundance of high-profile strikers that are available this season, most people are going to be going with a power 2, possibly power 3.
Yeah.
And then if one of them's flopping and clearly not doing anything, as you mentioned, the Huddersfield boy, potentially Chicharito, Austin, they can then, or Rodriguez, they can then be an enabler to maybe bring in an additional big hitting midfielder or whatever. So I don't think many people, particularly the people that play it avidly, will be starting with those budget strikers. I think a lot of people will be monitoring them, see how they start. Because, West Brom got nice fixtures, but they don't score many goals, do they?
Yeah, but you always got odd results at the start of the season as well. First 4 or 5 games, you always get odd results. So I think Baggies are one to watch, that's for sure.
Yeah, interesting. So what about the big boys then? Because I've wrote Lacazette down at 10.5. I don't know if he's underpriced, really. I've never seen him, in the Prem. He might turn out to be underpriced. I've wrote him down because I think he's one of them, especially if Sanchez is on his way, that if he does hit the ground running, people are jumping on him, his price is going to go up.
Well, it's like I said, the first Friday night game is Arsenal-Leicester. And if you don't have him, he scores a brace, people might even captain him. He's going to be flying, isn't he? If he hits a brace that first game, he could be 10.7 by Tuesday.
Exactly.
So
I think that's right.
He's certainly one to consider. Obviously, he's already scored in their first friendly. He's looking a threat. Obviously, I think the Charity Shield is a big game. Obviously, it's on TV, it's on Sky. Would you say Lacazette's been underpriced, or do you think 10.5 is right for him? I think it's about right now. If he was to score a brace against Chelsea in the Charity Shield, then I might change my opinion. But if he was to perform in that Charity Shield, that ownership could rocket, because there's not many intense games before the season. I know the Charity Shield is a little bit of a Mickey Mouse game, but Chelsea, Arsenal, it will be taken seriously. New signings will want to impress. If he was to unsettle that Chelsea defence, it'll be hard not to put him in your initial side, won't it?
Yeah, you're 100% right. I think it's one of them. You wait and see. It's nice we've got the luxury of that Charity Shield to be able to assess these Arsenal boys and see, how they're setting up. Very, very interesting one. I think you could see people jumping on bandwagons off the back of that Charity Shield, or potentially vice versa if they look awful. What I wanted to go on to, because I've wrote Lukaku's name down, but he sort of merges into the next subject that I wanted to speak about, and I've wrote down fear picks. I find Lukaku's immediately in my team based on fear as much as anything else. Is high ownership, which is only seemingly going up and up and up. 50% of the game are probably going to own him. I just think he's potentially also been underpriced because, Kane at 12.5 and I think he scored 26, 27 last year and Kane 29.
Yeah, well, I think I texted you the other night when I see Rashford. He looks a real threat in these friendlies, and he's playing minutes. Is he a viable option instead of Lukaku, or could you have them both? But like the point you've just made, that fear factor, you're 100% correct. If Lukaku's ownership's 50%, and you've got to
have him, haven't you? You've got to have him.
You really have. If you're going in with a Rashford over him, it's seriously bold management. It's not something I'll be doing. But Lukaku, he's definitely number one fear pick, I think, at the start of the season.
I think, especially given their fixtures, I think you touched on something there with the double up. I hadn't even thought of the double up, but I think more people will be inclined to go the double up than there will be go without Lukaku. The double up becomes the differential, doesn't it? Rather than going without Lukaku.
It's a better double up than Lukaku, Pogba for me personally.
Yeah, cheaper as well.
I think Rashford is certainly one to watch, and there may be bold managers that listen to this and think Rashford is a fantastic option because that extra 4 mil you're gaining. Do
you think a lot of people would just sticking the armband on Lukaku for the first? Looking at the fixtures, the first 5-6 games, just regardless, and just trusting him.
I would think so, especially if he hits some more goals in the friendlies coming up. West Ham at home, you've got to fancy him, haven't you? But he's a fear pick. As I said, he's a fear pick. He's in my team through fear mainly. I do think he will do it, so he's in for that reason as well. But he's a fear pick. Kane's a fear pick because of his high ownership. I know he doesn't scare you, but these tough Fletchies winners, obviously, they can see the future. Kane's going to flop the first 6 games, but he's a fear pick, mate. If he hits a brace at St James's Park, I predict he's in your team game week 2 through fear. As long as Ali's feeding him at St James's Park, I'm not sure. Ali's another fear pick. Yeah, well, you certainly want some Spurs in there. Obviously, Trippier, we mentioned, he's going to be at everyone's side. But just going on to Trippier again. Obviously, Spurs, you say about clean sheets, but if you look at the friendlies, they conceded 5 goals in 2 games. Now, I know Walker wasn't the best defensively, but that pace he had got him out of trouble when Tottenham out of trouble a fair amount of times away from home. So you think, obviously, Walker leaving is going to affect the clean sheets or not?
I see what you're saying, but that's not enough for me to not go with him at 5.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
He gets forward as well, doesn't he? So
I do think it's a shame that the likes of Alderweireld and Vertonghen, you're just not going to, like even a Rose, you're just not going to pick now because Trippier. I think it's good, but I think it would have been better for the game if Trippier would have been priced at 6.
What would be great for the game is if Spurs go and sign another right back, just to throw a little question mark over what's going on at right back. Because if they do that, I think a lot of people might think Trippier could be rotated, especially with the cup commitment. It might put a few people off, but as it stands, he's in everyone's side. I would say. I think to conclude the fear pick, just wanted to finish up because most people, last season would have been having Sanchez through fear. He doesn't have the same fear factor this year. His ownership's at 15%, which is it's differential regions. You know what I mean? 15%. What's your thoughts?
It's a very, very good point. Do you not think when we know exactly what's happening with him, that's going to change though? If Wenger, if he comes out and says I'm staying at Arsenal, you're not thinking.
Does he become a fear pick then?
I'd certainly be fearful if he wasn't in my side. 12 mil. It's just so up in the air at the moment. I'm not even, to be honest, thinking about Sanchez because I just don't know what's going on.
I think the Charity Shield is is what we'll be assessing him and Lacazette basically.
Yeah. You know, if he's still there and starting the Charity Shield, you've got to think he's starting the season. And you know, if he's looking bright in the Charity Shield, then you know that ownership's going to go up. But I can understand because previous seasons, if everything was rosy, he'd be on 35% ownership by now, wouldn't he?
Yeah, you're 100% right. Yeah, 100% right. I think that's exhausted my list. Is there anyone we've missed that you can think of?
No, I wasn't aware of your fear factor topic coming. So,
I'll tell you why, because I was looking at my team thinking, where can I nick a few quid? I was looking at Lukaku thinking, you know, you look at people and think, are you definitely in my side or is there room for manoeuvre here? I looked at Lukaku and thought, he's in and it's not even my decision and it's my team.
Yeah, it's a real shame, to be honest, but I just can't make a case to not have him. No, if anyone wants to comment below with a case to not have Lukaku, I'd love to hear it. It's. I just think he's in my side. He's cemented in my side, and unless he gets injured, then I think he's the first person.
I just wanted to say, Fletchy, we posted on the forum that we wanted some comments and feedback and all that sort of stuff. We've got a couple of questions. We haven't got time to go into both of them, unfortunately, in length. But thanks to both of the lads that put comments on there.
Definitely.
And obviously, that was our first pre-pilot, and this is our first kind of like half. Real fantasy football weekly. We'll be doing one every week, so we will get an opportunity to go over questions and comments and the rest of it. If anyone's got any questions or comments, obviously post them below. Make sure you hit subscribe at the same time. But what I wanted to do is this lad, he calls himself Marcelo Salas, Man United 97-98, and he put a massive question. It was basically a dialogue of him going into the detail of how he manages his team by default every single season, i.e. he goes for underpriced players, as we just discussed for nearly an hour, and basically he brings them in, he looks for team value to rocket. He normally wildcards early because he wants to maximise that underpriced potential, and this is a very common tactic. So, I just want to get your thoughts on, obviously you had a title winning season last year. Will you be looking to adopt the same tactics? And if so, roughly go into how you're going to approach it yourself.
Yeah, well, first, cheers for the message. He's obviously on our addiction level, that's for sure.
That's for sure.
By the sounds of that question. But yeah, it's a very good question. I will be playing it pretty similar to how I won my mini league. The only thing I'm looking to change, I've always... The first wild card, I've always waited to use it till maybe game week 14, 15, 16. But I'm looking to use it early this season based on from even you last season where your value, I think you used it, was it game week 3, 4, something like that? I
think it was 3. And to be honest, I had a good game week 1 and 2 as well. But the temptation of jumping on all these little gems that you didn't have from the start, it just becomes, too much.
It's like, who was a big bandwagon last season, Capoue, people getting him by game week, I don't know, 10, his price had gone up $1 million or something silly like that, or $0.5 million up, I can't remember. But playing those early wild cards and getting on those bandwagons early and really getting your value up, because all last season you had maybe 2.5 million more than me.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was also nearly 200 points behind you at one point, but we don't need to go into that detail, do we? Marcelo Salas. So you're on his wavelength then, basically, or that's going to be your approach for next year. Yeah,
next season I'm looking at an early wild card, unless I'm, Jesus is hitting hatties every week and I'm flying and I'm in top 2,000, then possibly I'll wait to use it. But no, I think I'm going to change my wildcard tactics this season.
Reigning champions planning wildcards in game week 3. I love it. Yeah, I love it. It can all go horribly wrong very early for you.
Of course, but we're going to see the highs and lows on here. So, I'm absolutely buzzing for it now. And I think is that podcast number 2 done?
Absolutely, yes, successful. Hopefully, hopefully the viewers think so too. Subscribe to our channel, and we'll be back next week with more Fantasy Football Weekly.
Can't wait. Cheers. Thanks. Bye.